What's up, friends of YouTube? Derek Van Diest here with Zaandam Music. In today's episode, we're going to be doing a basic workflow video for mixing. So I produced a beat and I think it's about ready for the mix process. So I'm going to show you in real time what it is I do when it comes to mixing. So let's hop right in. Okay, so this is the overview of the beat that I made. As you can see here, I have an intro, I have a hook, a verse, a hook, verse, and then the outro. And the total beat is about, let's see, 2 minutes and 30 seconds around there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mix this. I haven't thought of anything, so this is all gonna be done in real time. So I'll show you guys the beat as I go on, as I work on it, so that I don't waste too much time. So let's start off with bouncing all of my MIDI files. So as you can see here, the transparent ones are the MIDI files that I programmed for the instruments. So for example, this is the 808 MIDI. And I basically bounced that to a WAV file. So it's the same thing here, the transparent one and the WAV file. So I did that for all the instruments, for almost all of them. As you can see here, I'm missing the snare, so I wanted to show you guys how to bounce, just in case you haven't seen my other videos. I click on the pattern and I hit Control B on the keyboard, and that's going to bounce it to an audio file. Alright, so it automatically makes it transparent, and as you can see, here's the audio file. So I raised the volume a little bit by hitting Alt plus on the keyboard to raise the volume, just before it clips. Alright, now that I have that, I'm going to duplicate it to match the pattern that I have here. So I just hit D on the keyboard to duplicate, and it should match up quite nicely. Although here I have a different pattern, so I'm actually going to have to bounce this one. So Control B to bounce this pattern. There we are, and I'm just going to bring it down by hitting Alt down on the keyboard. Or I can just click and drag. And I'm going to remove that so we don't get confused. Alright, I'm going to duplicate that and put it in the proper spot. And then I'm going to click 6 on the keyboard so that I can mute these MIDI files manually. Alright, so we took care of the bouncing, so I think that's the last one. They all have WAV files, it seems. Alright, great, so everything's ready to go for the mix process. So here we have the mixer. So the very first thing I do for the mix is I route all the instruments to their proper bus channels. So as you can see here, all the drums are routed to the drum bus. All the instruments are routed to the instrument bus. The pads are on the pad bus channel. And the effects are in the effect bus channels. And here are the bus channels. So for the bus channels, I'm gonna show you guys here. I have reverb on them. So for the drums, I have room reverb and plate reverb. Instrument, I just have room. Pads, I have room and hall. And then effects, I just have room. So let's take a look at what reverbs I'm using. So for the plate reverb, I'm using Valhalla Vintage Verb drum plate. For the hall, I'm using Valhalla Vintage Verb Very Nice Hall. And for the room reverb, I'm using Altiverb 7 West Arm Studios. Okay. So now I usually go and check the levels to make sure everything's playing at the proper level. So because basically I want everything to be below about -6 dB. So if we see here on the master, it should all be below -6. And the reason I do this is to give myself some headroom for the mastering. So let's see, I have a note somewhere, if I can find it. Song information. Okay, so I have a note here that I got from a Nick Myra pack that tells me around what volume everything should be in. So we're going to use this as a guide. Alright, so I'm going to start playing the beat and I'm going to start adjusting the levels as I go. so I won't really be talking about it, but just kind of visualize what I'm doing, and I'll try to talk about the important things here and there. So let's start listening. Alright, so the bass is, I want it to hit at -12, so that's about where it's hitting. Alright, I'm going to restart it because I'm going to play around with the levels here for the instruments now. So I'm going to go ahead and have it loop. So I want the main piano chords, which are playing right now, I want those to be around 26 and 22 dB. So right now it's hitting at about 17, 16 around there, so let's adjust that. Alright, so about 23, 29, 24, let's leave it at about that. So the Rhodes is the secondary melody, so it should be around 30 and 24. Let's try to match it up with the chords. So it's about -24 right now. So it's right in the range. Let's bring it down a notch. Right there, about -27 is just right. So as you can see, it's playing really nicely with the bass now. Alright, let's move on to the next section, so let's extend the loop. I would say this is also a secondary melody, so about 30-24. Let's take a look here. It's pretty nice right there. I'm going to bring the beat tag down as well. It's a little loud. I'm just going to do that one by ear. We also have a Razer playing in this section, so we're going to adjust the Razer sound as well. It's a little loud. Turning it down. So I have to do the beat tag and Razer by ear because I don't have notes for that. Alright, I think that's pretty good for now. Let's hear the pads now. So the pads are around 26, 22. It's quite nice right there, so I'm gonna do it in context. Okay, it sounds really nice. Let's try this one. This one's about 17, so we need to turn it down. So at about -23, let's see what that sounds like. I'm actually going to route this instrument, instead of pads, I'm going to put it on instrument, because I don't want it to have too much reverb. Awesome, so we got that down. Now we can start moving on to the hook section. Let's start working on the drums. So the kick around 6 dB. Alright, check, we got that down. So snare should be between 12 and 9. So here's the snare, let's try to adjust that. Alright. Great, now let's take a look at the clap. The clap is, let's see here, also between 12 and 9. So, and I'm also doing it by ear as well to get it just right. Alright, so one thing I wanted to point out, as I was producing this beat, I already had panning in mind. So for this clap, I actually panned it to the left 32, and you can see right there. For instruments like my hi-hats, I pan them all in different directions. So the hi-hat to the right, this hi-hat to the left, this hat to the right, and this one to the left. So just to give it a little more width. And the only things I didn't pan for the drums are the kick and the snare. And the clap I did pan it to the left. Okay. So those are the only things I panned. Alright, so let's keep adjusting the sounds here. Let's move on to the hi-hats. So the hi-hat and perk should be between 8 dB and 16 dB. So let's try to adjust that. Okay, so let's see. This one's hitting about -15, so we need to bring it down. Whoops, I need to have it looping here, so let's put the loop back on. Alright. So right now it's hitting at -18, so let's bring it down. Actually, it's hitting pretty nice, -17. So let's leave it right there. Let's hear the next one. So this is kind of an open hat. So 32 and 30, so this one has to be pretty low. So let's bring it down. There we go. So it hit about 31, let's see. 28. 32. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Let's hear what it sounds like in context. Yeah, it's just right. So the next hi-hat. This one's hitting at, let's see here, 21. So we want this to hit at 18, 16. So let's bring it up. Let's hear what that sounds like. Alright, so it's hitting just right. And we're about 18.3, 17, so it's hitting just right. So the last hi-hat here, actually we got two more. So hi-hat C, we're hitting at -21.5, so it should be hitting at 18 to 16, so let's bring it up. 19, 18, 17, so right there it sounds pretty nice. Let's hear it. Perfect, so let's do the little triangle sound. And I don't know why, but I didn't rename these properly, so I'm going to rename them as I go. So this is triangle. Okay. Another thing I didn't do is I didn't route these to the VCA channels, so I'll do that as I go on. So this is a drum sound. This is a drum sound. And I'm just going to do that for all these sounds here. I'm going to try not to take up too much time. Alright, so back to the sound. The triangle. So the triangle should be one of these here. So let's do it by ear. Okay, so I think it sounds fine there. Just barely noticeable. Alright, great. So I think we arranged all the sounds here. Let's see. Yep. So we have everything at the proper level. Actually, let me check the 808. I think the 808 is what we missed. It should be hitting at 12, so 88, 12, 15. Okay, so an interesting note. When I was producing this, I decided to use two 808s. It's the exact same 808 pattern, but one of them is the high frequency and one is the low frequency. So what I did is, for one of them, I transposed it up 6, and for the low one, I transposed it down 6. And together, it sounds a lot more powerful. So that's what I did for that. Alright, so all the levels are at their proper location. So now we can move on with the mix. We don't need this anymore. Okay, now the next step is to be a little bit more creative. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. We need to start EQing. So let's start putting in the low pass filters. So let's start with the bass sounds. Alright, so I'm going to start with the 808. And let's do the high and low. I'm going to add a FabFilter Pro Q. And let's go ahead and make the cuts where they need to be. So I'm going to cut about 48, around 32 Hertz. And I'm also going to bring down the high end at about 24, actually less, about 12. Okay, sounds pretty good right about there. I'm also going to raise it a little bit here. And I learned this trick from BusyWorks Beats actually. So it's a neat little trick to give your 808 some more power. All right, great. So let's go ahead and put that on the 808 low. So I'm just going to copy that. So I don't want too much of the higher frequencies because I'm going to leave that for the 808 high. So I'm just listening to the 808 and trying to find where the boost needs to be. Okay, so I'm not going to make it perfect because it takes a long time. The mix process takes a really long time, so I don't want to drag this on. So let's move on kind of quickly. Let's move on to the bass now. So this is not an 808. This is like a synthetic bass that I used. I believe I used sub boom bass for this one. Sounds pretty similar to the 808, but it's not as boomy. Alright, great. So let's go ahead and start EQing the drums next. So what I'm going to do is, because I have everything in pack folders, I can close the other instruments so they don't get in the way and kind of keeps everything organized. So let's go back into the mixer. Alright, so now we can just look at the drum sounds. So I'm going to put a fab filter cue here. And I'm going to make sure that only the drums are playing. But I also want the bass to be playing with it. Okay, so I'm just making the cuts where they need to be. Alright, great. So we got that one. Now let's move on to the next kick. So I'm going to copy that and move on to the next section that uses a different kick. And for this kick, because I'm using two different kicks actually for this beat. For the second kick, I'm using kick 2, and I'll open it up here. Basically, I figured out how to use this with samples. I grabbed one of my kicks from a sample pack, and I put it into this VST, and I'll show you here. So I put it into click 1, and then I adjusted it here in the window, which is really cool. I was able to tune it to the right frequency for the beat, which is F sharp. So this is really useful. This is a must-have VST for kicks. All right, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and do the fab filter for the second kick sound. So I'm just doing this by ear. Alright, that's good enough. It's not going to be perfect because I'm trying to move a little bit faster. So I'm routing everything to the proper VCA channels as I go along. Alright, let's do the snare next. Hold up. Put it in the wrong channel. So I want all the high-end frequencies, so I'm going to take that off. I just want to do a low cut for the snare. Alright, so that'll do for the snare. Now let's do the clap. Make sure it plays in the right section. Alright, that's good enough. Let's move on to the hi-hats now. Alright, so let's move on to the next hi-hat. So I'm just basically doing low cuts for everything. Let's make sure it plays in the right section too. Okay, and let's move on to the next one. And I'm trying to move quick, like I said, to save on time. Alright, next one. Alright, and now the triangle is the last one. Alright, that'll do. Alright, so we got all the drum sounds fitted here, so let's go ahead and close up the drum folder. And let's move on to the instruments now. So let's start with the FabFilter Pro Q on the chords. Low cut. And I'm going to play that in context. I'm also going to do a high shelf boost here. Alright, let's move on to the next one. I'm going to use a FabFilter Pro Q. This is going to be for the Rhodes now. I'm also going to do a high shelf boost here of 3 dB for the high end. Wow, it's sounding really nice. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next instrument now. FabFilter Pro Q, low cut. And I'm going to do a high shelf as well. And I'm going to do a notch here because these frequencies are a little high. Let's hear what that sounds like in context. My bad. Okay, that sounds really nice. So what is this instrument here? I'm going to try to find out where that is. Oh, it's the guitar sound. So I'm going to change that and rename it guitar so I know what it is. And I would say this is kind of like a bell pluck. So I'm going to rename that bell so I know what it is. Now for the guitar, I need to EQ that. So let's open another FabFilter. And let's work on the guitar. Alright, cool, that sounds good. So we got all that done, so now let's move on to the pad sounds. So let's work on the first one here. FabFilter Pro Q. Low cut. Let me make sure it plays on the right section though. This one here. Okay, so I put it on the wrong channel. So low cut. And let's hear that in context. It needs a bit of a shelf here. Right there. Alright, let me get rid of that one so we don't get confused. And I'm also routing the VCA channels here to the pads. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the last pad sound here, and let's put another fab filter. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a bell to raise the frequencies here in the middle because they're a bit low. Right about there, I think. So we're going to work on that a little later as well. We're going to adjust it more. So this should be on the pads. Oh, that's right. I changed it to instrument. Okay, that's right. I remember. Okay, that's everything then. So we got the EQing on all the instruments. So let's move on to the next step now, which is the creative part. We're going to do a little more. I'm going to play through the beat and see what we can do to it for some creative effects. So I'm going to open up all the folders here. Also, I don't EQ the riser or the beat tag. So let's go ahead and play and see what we can do. That snare sounds really quiet. Let me find the snare. Okay, there we go. I don't know, I really like the way it sounds, but you know, for the purpose of this video, you guys are going to want to see something special, so let's do some delays. Let's go ahead and pan it and also do some delaying. So the instruments that I want to delay are the Rhodes. So let me hear the Rhodes one more time. Oh, it's already got a delay on it. That's right. So the guitar, let's hear the guitar. Yep, guitar has a delay as well. Let's hear the chords. Yep. Okay, actually I'm going to add another delay here to the chords. So I'm going to go into the mix. I'm going to find the chords and I'm going to add a delay. So let's do, actually I have an effects already on here for delays. So I have an Echo Boy. So I'm going to type that in here and find it real quick. Echo Boy. And we'll go ahead and route the effects channel to the chords. And I'm going to use that same delay for the beat tag. So we're going to play around with some presets to hear what sounds best. So I'm going to go ahead and loop this. Okay, so let's go with some rhythmic maybe. Oh, that's right. It's not playing because I don't have it routed. I was trying to figure out why it wasn't working. Okay, so let's go back to the chords here, and we're going to send it to the Echo Boy. Now we can hear it. I kind of like this one. This one sounds nice. Let's hear it in context. Yeah, I'm gonna keep that. It sounds really nice. Alright, I'm gonna use that same Echo Boy on the beat tag and hear what that sounds like. Oh, it flows really nice. Okay, let's do it. Let's use that. Now, what else can I use that on? Let's try the bell. Maybe the bell doesn't have a delay? Let's hear the delay for the bell. Okay, so the bell needs a delay, so let's hear what it sounds like with that one. A bit strong. Let's turn it down. There we go. Let's hear what it sounds like in context. I like that. It sounds really nice. It makes everything kind of glue and mesh together well. So for that bell, I'm going to add another creative effect here. I'm going to add a crystallizer. Just for a little bit more shimmer in the high end. So let's solo the bell. And let's loop that. I like to use crystals, so let's play through the crystals. So I'm just playing with the different presets, trying to find one that I like. This one's kind of silly. Let's see what it sounds like in context. No, I don't like that preset. Okay, this one's nice. It's just a very faint shimmer sound for the high end. So I'm going to keep that because I like that. It sounds good. I think I know what else I need to do to the bass I just thought of. So let's hear the bass. So I want a little bit of distortion in the high end of this bass. So I'm going to add a decapitator. And we're going to add a little bit of distortion or saturation. Takes a little while to load here. There we are. Okay, so let's solo that bass sound, which is this one here. And I'm going to bring the drive up. I'm playing with the different styles now. Okay, I like A. I'm going to turn it up. I also want to make sure that it's not raising my volume. It actually lowered it, so I'm going to raise the output. And I'm going to turn it up. Let's hear it in context. So that sounds much better. Okay, cool. So we got the bass there. What else can we do? Maybe we can do an automation just to wrap it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to automate one of the sections. So let me close this out. I'm going to automate the second part here of the verse. I'm going to put an auto filter on it. So I'm going to go into the mixer. I'm going to try to do this as quick as I can for you guys. I'm going to go to my mix bus channel. Actually, I'm going to go to the filter bus channel. And I'm going to add an auto filter. Okay. And I'm going to select the step. And I'm going to raise it to 4 bars. I'm going to grab the mix, and then I'm going to click on the automation tool here so that I can automate the auto filter. So that's going to create this filter channel down here, and that's what we're going to play with. So we want the filter to activate only in the second part of the verse here. So I'm going to bring it down to 0. And for the second part of the verse, I'm going to raise it up to about 80%. Actually 100. Let's try it at 100. And I want it to be a rapid change here. I don't want it to be over time. I just want it to happen. And I also want it to drop when it's finished at the end of that verse. So I'm gonna do, darn it, I'm gonna do the same thing here for the end. So let's hear what that sounds like. So I'm going to change the filter to a different one. I'm going to mess around here. I think let's try ladder 12. Alright, so I don't want it to be that long, so I'm going to bring it down to just the end of that verse and hear what that sounds like. And I don't think I want the drums to be affected by that filter. So I'm going to go back to the mix. I'm going to find my my drum bus channel. And instead of routing it to the filter, let's route it to the filter bypass so that it ignores the filter, the auto filter. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay, I like that, but it's a little loud, so let's turn it down to 80% about there. Okay. And for some reason, it sounded like we had a lot of reverb on the drum. And it's true, we do, so I'm going to turn it down. Something's not right. The bass sounds really loud. Why is the bass so loud? So it's probably something to do with the filter here. So it's going to take me a little while. I don't want to waste too much time, but the filter here is not working properly. So let me try from the beginning one more time. Dang, I don't know what it is, but it's too loud. The mix is at 0. Auto filter. Alright, so I did something wrong and it's going to take some time to figure it out. So let's just scrap this idea. I'm going to remove it. And you guys kind of get what I was trying to go with. Just a basic filter effect, but it's going to take me, as you can see, about 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes to like figure out what's going on there. So we're just going to remove it for now, and that's it. That's the whole beat. So later on, I'm going to have another video on exactly how I produce this, and I'll do a little bit more of an in-depth mix. So stay tuned for that episode. Alright, so thank you guys for joining me for this basic mixing workflow session, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.